Most valuable U.S. Civil War rare U.S. postage stamps. The 1995 Davis stamp. It is part of the commemorative series. In honor of the 130th anniversary of the end of the American Civil War. The bust of Jefferson Davis is depicted. First and only President of the Confederate States of America. Who held the role for 4 years. From 1861 to 1865. This image represents a symbolic scene of the southern states. On background, you will be able to see a tree covered in Spanish moss. And a steamboat with side wheels moving along a river. Elements and symbols of the southern Confederate states. Top right. The nominal value of the piece. 32 cents of the US dollar. Down. The first and last name of President Jefferson Davis. Postage stamp issued on June 29, 1995. Issued in 15 million copies. It was printed using the photo engraving method. With a tensoration. Today it's worth $4. The 1995 Farragut stamp. Depicted in the center. The bust of U.S. Admiral David Glasgow Farragut. Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Navy in the 19th century. Who played a key role during the U.S. Civil War. Postage stamp issued to celebrate the 130th anniversary of the end of the Civil War. Finished in 1865. About this piece. He is depicted on a rope ladder on board of his flagship, called USS Hartford. Top left. The nominal value of the piece. 32 cents of the US dollar. Down. The name and surname of the Admiral. Stamp from the Civil War collection. This piece was used for sending priority mail. Released June 29, 1995. Was issued in 15 million copies. Printed with the photo engraving method. Where the aluminum flat matrices were engraved using a computer. With a tensoration. This stamp is worth $9 today. The 1995 Monitor Virginia stamp. Depicts the first naval battle during the Civil War. Between two armored warships. This clash. It changed naval warfare around the world. Because the main navies. They stopped building wooden ships. And began to make iron and metal ships. Down. The ship USS Monitor. Up. The CSS Virginia. An epic clash between two armored ships. Cutting-edge technology of the time. Clash between the separatist countries of the Union and the member countries of the Confederation. A naval battle. Which did not end with a winning ship. USS Monitor temporarily retreated when a shell fragment hit the wheelhouse. The event saw the effectiveness of armored ships. Effective against wooden ships. The latter were unable to penetrate with their own weapons. The thick metal armor of armored ships. Up. The writing of the two ships is shown. Monitors. And Virginia. Bottom right. The nominal value of the piece. 32 cents of the US dollar. Postage stamp issued on June 29, 1995. Was issued in 15 million copies. Printed with the photo engraving method. With a tensoration. Today it's worth $10. The 1995 Douglas stamp. Depicts the bust of Frederick Douglas. Late 19th century United States minister. He went down in history for being a great reformer. And supporter of voting rights for American women. He was the first African American to strongly support the equality of all men and women in society. Former slave. He managed to make a political career. And to reach the highest levels of politics. Top left. The nominal value of the piece is reported. 32 cents of the US dollar. Down. Your name and surname. Stamp that is part of the commemorative series of the 130th anniversary of the end of the Civil War. Was released on June 29, 1995. Issued in 15 million copies. Printed with the photo engraving method. With a tensoration. Today it's worth $10. The 2013 Vicksburg and Gettysburg stamp pair. Was issued on the occasion of the 150th anniversary of the Civil War. Represents two blows that the Confederacy suffered. On the stamp bearing the words Gettysburg. Depicts the moment of the battle in Pennsylvania. Duration 3 days. The forces of the Confederate troops. They broke through the Union military lines. But the Confederation was unable to resist the enemy artillery, and they lost the battle. On the other stamp, the Siege of Vicksburg is depicted. Key city along the Mississippi River. Union soldiers surrounded the city, effectively cutting the supply line and beginning the artillery assault against the Confederacy. Siege lasted 47 days. The Union emerged victorious, taking control of the Mississippi River. In addition to the local writing, the date of the duration of these battles is reported. Stamps released in 2013. Today the pair is worth $40. Sherman's 1893 stamp depicts the bust of William Tecumseh Sherman, Commander General of the Union Army. During the Civil War, she held his role for 14 years, from 1869 to 1883. Remembered in history for having been a great military strategist, he went down in history above all for the technique he called scorched earth, which he implemented against the Confederate Army. War strategy, which consists in destroying all the resources that the troops they are unable to carry themselves with them, so as not to voluntarily leave the possibility of supplies to the enemy. A strategy that Sherman's troops they adopted for 32 days through Georgia, from the city of Atlanta up to the border in the south. Above his face, the written United States postage. Down, the nominal value of the piece, 8 cents of the American dollar. Postage stamp issued on March 21, 1893. Was issued in 12 million copies, with a 12 serration. Today it is worth $285. The 1926 Grant stamp. It depicts the bust of the 18th President of the United States of America. Role held for 8 years, from 1869 to 1877. He was a Union general during the American Civil War. Considered a Civil War hero, he was politically unable to administer the country well. Above the bust, the written United States postage. His surname below, with the nominal value of the piece, 8 cents of the American dollar. A value that allowed you to pay the airmail rate for a single delivery in the transcontinental area. Piece released on May 29, 1926. It had a circulation of 165 million copies. Printed by the rotary press method. It was considered for the time the fastest and cheapest way to print stamps. That thanks to spiral stamps. They were rotated and pressed in ink onto paper with a 10 serration. Today this stamp is worth $320.